Okay, I think we're ready to begin. Hello, everybody. This is Stephen Arnold over at Docket Manager, and I'm here today to discuss our release notes for version 3.15 beta. So for any betas who are currently selected, you will be contacted. If you are interested, though, in joining the beta, you can sign up at beta.docketmanager.ca. Also when you're writing questions, any questions we want to be directed just for version 3.15. If you have other questions, you can ask after the meeting, and you can definitely put any of your questions in the group chat. So let's get started. Okay, let's begin. So this is our training module for release notes version 3.15. Let's jump on in. So right now, version 3.15 is currently in beta, and there are several changes we want to cover. After this meeting, we will have a recording of the webinar you can view, and we'll also have access to this training module. So you can see this video covering all of those changes, and you can also read over the changes within the training module itself. Let's make this a bit bigger. So let's get started. First, we want to jump into production here. So Docket Manager has basically added a dashboard in production with a new statistical overview of different items in production. So I'll just zoom in here. So this shows many different statistics related to different areas of Docket Manager. So let's cover what these areas are. These statistics, they're organized into 12 different areas, things like priority status, as you can see, jobs by due date, jobs by queue, and jobs by customer, jobs by press, time by press, jobs by stock, sheets by stock, jobs by department item groups, jobs by department items, jobs by vendors, and jobs by ship type. So depending which type of statistic you're interested in, you can investigate the values for the total jobs you have, or the time involved, or the quantity. So just clicking on one of these links will bring up a search in production for that area. So to navigate to this, you would go, and I'll actually pop into the site to show you this new area. So in production, what you'll see here is this little drop down now, and it has the access to these three areas: workflow, active user, which I'll get to shortly, and stats, which is the one I was just discussing. So the stats view here, you can see all of these are clickable links where you can go into filtered searches. Let's go back in here. Next, we have queue stats. So this is a feature form request. Basically, statistical views also come up for each type of queue that's adjusted to different filtered results. What that means is basically, if you're in production and you go to workflow, if you click on this little button here, that will allow you to toggle stats. And these stats pop up above the production queue and below the tabs. So these different stats are basically filtered to what relevant statistics of what you're currently looking at. So right here, you can see they're looking at bindery. So these stats would be related to the bindery tab. So again, if you want to access this, you would just click on the little button there for toggle stats. It's a little faster than going actually into the stats menu and looking at all of the stats. This way you can just see the stats that are relevant to what you're looking at in production. Next, active user queues. So the system now shows a queue for each active user, and we'll explain more about how users are made active, that displays all the work assigned to them regardless of the queue. So the design philosophy behind this is basically it should help staff in production only focus on what work they are responsible for. So when you set up the active user for that queue, when you go to active user, and again, that's here. So it's all together here, workflow, active user, and stats. It will only show information relevant to that active user. So if I clicked on this user here, the jobs basically would only relate to that person. So good way to keep focused to kind of not be distracted by all of the other things happening in production. Next, we have drag and drop sorting. So this is another feature form request. A custom sort order is now available for each workflow and active user queue. To access this, after selecting custom sort order, down here where you have the different sort options, you would select custom sort order. After doing that, you'll see the typical drag and drop up and down arrows appear, and you can actually drag and drop move these different items in the order that you want if you want to make a custom sort order. You won't see these drag and drop there by default. You have to select custom sort order, and then you can move it around. Okay, so let's jump into the big change in production, which is customizable views. There's actually 3 changes in here. I'll talk about all 3 and then show you those views. So these are all feature form requests. Some of these have been requests a long time, I believe. So the first is for fields, you have the ability to choose fields that are visible for each queue. Next, we have filters, so the ability to choose what search filters display for each queue and the order in which they display. And finally, for statuses, we have the ability to choose which system or custom statuses display on production. So let me just show you these quick little screenshots here. So here is one example, which I'll jump into more for production views. Here you can see the different filters you can apply, and here is the toggle for production queue display. Let me show you more what I mean. So basically, using HTML, you now have the ability to customize the view that you see in production. And I have 3 examples to demonstrate. So let's go into single line outsourced here. So this view is a view you might be more used to. It's just a single line view, and it's giving you all of the relevant information for the outsourced production queue. Now, we have a few other ones that are built out here. So again, with the HTML, you can basically generate your own custom views. So that was called single line. If we go to, where's that one? Card view outsourced. So this one is more typical of what you might be used to when you see the traditional card view. You can see here it's a bit wider. It's got different types of information, but also say you're used to or you like the summary view that you can see on jobs. You can even pull that kind of summary view information into your production queue. So we take a look at this one, which is a bit different. It has an actual button to help expand that information. So again, this is all created through HTML. So if I click on this, it's giving much more detailed summary type information about this outsource, this vendor. So pretty useful. And again, this is probably the feature in this rollout that I'm the most excited about, because basically people will be able to create whatever custom views they want. It just depends on what you're looking for. The system will come with a kind of pre-designed view that's the one you're used to, that kind of single line view, but you'll be able to generate more over time. Okay. Let's take a look at the next tab here. So this one is multi-assigned to fields. So basically, when editing an order item, you now have the ability to assign more than one person to that order item. And if you basically go to edit the order item here, you can see in the old assigned to field, you can select more than one user in there. Next, queue access. So this is going back to that kind of customizable views I was discussing before. You have the ability to give access to only the production queue that a user needs. So when you're in settings and production, if you edit the queue, you'll notice this access area is new, and you can select which people actually have access to view that queue. So it should help definitely in getting people focused on what queues they're actually working on. All of the other ones, they can just have not have access to those, and then you'll be able to get people to focus on those. So you would just go to settings, production, edit your production queue, and select access. Next, proof approval and due options. So we have a few new things here in our reference date dropdown. So when setting order due options, you now have the ability to have a proof due date calculate and other dates calculate off of a proof approval date. So here in the reference date, when you're setting your order due options, you would just click down on here and you can select the proof approval date as a reference date. And as well, just like that one, you can also select today. So a few new options for reference dates there. Our final tab here for production is activity tracking. So basically what this is you can now track activity for orders in the queue. You can actually see records of who is working on them and when. So what you would do to access that, there's a few different ways. You can go to the Actions button, or you can just go to the relevant row here with that item you're concerned about. Click on the Actions button, and down here at the bottom, you'll see Activity. And all that will do, it'll bring up a list of records of information about who is working on that specific item in your production queue. So good way to see what's going on there. So again, lots of changes in production, but definitely the biggest change, and I think over time we'll see more different sites develop this in different ways, is the ability to have customizable views for the production queue and give people different levels of access. So pretty cool. Let's move on next to files. Okay, so some good changes here as well. So in files, we have lots of new selectable buttons that you can choose in the file repository that'll give you more control. So one of the first is feature form requests for a thumbnail generation. Basically, the item files that you upload can be automatically converted into thumbnails. You can also do this manually just by clicking on the Create Thumbnail button, which is right here. Or as I said, if you are uploading, if you set up the system, you can actually have it convert those item files automatically into a thumbnail. So just takes away that one step if you don't need to create the thumbnail from the button. Another button up here that we added is the delete button. So you now have the ability to delete files that have been associated with a proof record. So you can just click on that. Gives you more control over your proof record item files. Next, we have the create proof from file table. So basically, if you want to create a new proof from the files that you've uploaded onto an item, there's another icon added to the items file modal to create a new proof. So you can just click on that, and it will generate that new proof from your file repository. Speaking about file uploads for file URLs, you now have the ability to provide a file URL instead of an uploaded image when you're adding a file. So when you're adding the file, you have this drop down here where you can just click on a URL, and you can just, and this is not just HTTP URL. You can have it point to the whatever address that you have, as long as it's something like a FTP or a URL that's public facing. You can just enter that in there. So think of it as a path that's pointing in that direction. So basically selecting the URL in the drop-down creates a field for typing that in, and you can just add your URL instead of just uploading the actual file. And next, you have the ability now to set a file upload as required after toggling the allow file upload on a product. So you would just toggle that on and set your file upload. But again, the biggest change definitely in our file repository is this row of new buttons to create thumbnails, delete proof files, to create proofs from file tables, things like that. So you'll see these when you start playing around with the item files there. The next section here is focused on documents. So I think this will be a popular change. This is a feature form request. What we're doing now with our tags in terms of documents is they are universal. So tags have been reworked so that all tags and formatting will work the same on documents, canned emails, and card views. So what this means is before, you would have specific tags to specific types of documents. So a customer tag on a quote document might not work the same as a customer tag on an invoice document or something else. So now they're designed to be all universal. And to my understanding, in terms of pre-existing documentation that you have, this will not affect that. And if we basically will be generating scripting that will make sure that any pre-existing documents you have will work with the new way we have these universal tags. So yeah, we'll go through that. And if you have specific document requests, of course, we'll look at that on an individual basis. But this works on documents, canned emails, and card views as well. So the days of having to wonder if this tag works on this document or if this tag works in this specific canned email, you don't have to worry about those anymore. They'll be all universal. Speaking about documents, there are some new ways to edit documents and to see how documents have been edited. This is another feature forum request. So a document change log can be viewed now to examine any previous changes to documents and revert them back. So similar to the other activity dropdown I showed you, just by clicking on here in activity, you can see what people have done in that document, any changes. There's also a revert button where you can just click on revert and it will go back to that original document. Useful if someone's made a change and it was a mistake or it needs to be changed back, and you can see when those changes were made. To reach that, you would just go to Settings, Documents, Actions button, and Activity. As I mentioned about editing documents, there are several new areas so that you can edit a document, more like a word processor here. So a few fields that have been added. So there's size field now where you can add the width and height and input that. So here we've got the example 8.5 by 11. Margins as well. You can add the fields for the top, bottom, left, and right margins for people to input. And we also added color selection here. So if you want to change the accent color or font color, you can bring up a color selection pane and you can select the color from there. So just more ways to edit your documents within the system and make them look the way you want. Also here, we've added the ability to generate several different things across many parts of Document Manager. So I'll talk about each of them in turn. The first one here is you can generate one work order per item or multi-items on one work order. As you can see the work order down there. If you select more than one work order, that's how you would achieve that. Next, we've got documents for multiple shipments. So you basically have the ability to print invoices, packing slips, and labels for more than one shipment at a time, which is down here. You just select those multiple shipments and you can print what you want. PDF reports. So in the report section for sales, taxes, AR, and aging summary, we now have the option to select PDF reports. And I'll just bring that up here. And this is a feature forum request. You can just select PDF in the report format. Next, print and email receipt on payments. So here it just gives you some more options. Another feature forum request when you're looking at your payments. So let's just wait for that one to cycle back here. So on payments, you can now select print and email the receipt through the Actions button. And finally, we've got print stock inventory label, another feature forum request. So that will allow you, again, through the Actions button to select a different print document option. Here you can print a stock inventory label up here. Okay, a few more. I don't have a screenshot for. Basically, one purchase order per outsourced or multi-outsourced on one purchase order, another feature forum request. And you can group shipping invoices as well. Okay, let's keep trucking. So this is our last group of additional changes. So I think this one, it seems like a small change, but I think this will be really good for people who are doing price testing to identify any issues with overrides. Basically, quote override indication is now in the top level. So before, if you made any changes, any overrides, the field would be highlighted in green. But if it was collapsed, you wouldn't be able to see that until you expanded it. So now it's green at the top level, even if everything is collapsed. So you can see here very quickly at a glance, you can see, uh-oh, someone's done some overriding there. Is that what we intend? And you can investigate. So nice little visual indication there of override. Moving on, bulk actions. So you might notice this bulk actions window looks a bit different from what you might be used to. More organized. So basically, bulk actions have been restyled and reorganized. They are now sorted basically into groups similar to other modal windows. So some of the areas that had a large number of checkboxes that were a little difficult to navigate sometimes have been reorganized. So this is in customers, bulk actions, contacts, and items. So you can see here we've got the blue styling there, and everything is organized under that title. So it should help you find the bulk action you're looking for a bit more quickly. Another additional change here, sales grand totals, a small change, but useful. So sales grand totals have been added to the sales page just down here at the bottom. Next, payment, save and add new. Like in many other areas in Document Manager, when you click on the little down area to save and add new, if you're making more than one, save and add new button has been added to the new payment modal. Just makes it easier to add multiple payments if that's what you're currently doing. Moving on. Small change here, basically an additional link on stock view and PO. So if you're in a stock view here and you want to get to the PO, you can just click on the little eyeball there to open that view, and it'll go straight to that page. Stock PO export, there's a PO export button now added. So if you want to export that list, you can. Time clock totals, if you're interested in knowing what the total time logged is, a total time logged has been added to the top right corner of this modal. So you can just take a look and see what the total time is if you have several records here. Next, we have new transactional statements. So this is basically the ability to print or email different transactional statements. So it's a new type of document. Basically, if you just go into actions where you would print statement, now you'll see print transactions, and it'll give you different transactional information there about what's going on with that customer. Online name for stock. So this online name has been added to stock imports and exports, just another field here, another column. So if you're exporting that, you can see it's got a new column there for the online name. And oops, down here. So here, just some small changes. The auto set invoice due date, we added the ability to set days on payment terms to use when calculating the invoice due date. This is a feature for forum requests. And finally, for production queue customization, we added the ability to set a queue on a product and have it copy to an order. Okay, so just a quick overview again. In this version, definitely I would say the top two big changes that you'll see affecting you as a user is these universal tags. So that will be something that affects documents and moving forward. And the new files here, you can select the different buttons here when you're working on thumbnails or proof files or just setting up your item files there in the file repository. And the last one, of course, is our production views. So it's exciting to see that now people will have a lot more areas in production where they can customize how they want things to look. So again, here's another example. We've got our single line here for graphics. If we move over here to card view, let's do the press one. So you can see here different card views pulling in for the press, a little different view of information. Let's take a look again at expanding. Let's do outsource, or sorry, finishing. So again, this brings up a different view. Again, you can pretty much create whatever view you want using the HTML, and you can get more information there. So let's do expanding invoicing. Yep. So whatever you want, whatever type of information, you can build that out to show you what you want to see on your production queue. So this training module with this information will be released to you guys to see. So you can watch the video, you can read over these changes, this information again, and I guess that's it. So now it's a good time to take a look at chat and we can start addressing people's 3.15 questions. So one of the first questions I see here is from Marion. If you view another queue and return to the original one that you have set a custom sort order on, will it retain the custom sort order? And looks like Nicole's on the ball here with the answers. So yeah, it says here custom sort is held even if you toggle to filter by something else and then back to custom sort. So we have that custom sort options. Let's see, we have a good comment there from Andre, thank you. Next question, will we be able to add the group name on the fields visible for queues? So this is an example of the activity log and queue movements. Right now, Nicole just added this activity. We just need to work on the styling a bit to make it look more like a records table, but other than that, that's basically how it works. It'll just bring up that list of records. So the next question was, can the proof due date be seen readily from all queues? Can the press queue see more than just press and ship? So in this example, this queue, you can see on the right, in this view, it does show the proof due date. We just don't have any dates for those specific jobs at this moment, but that's how that would display. You can show any due date you want, actually. So graphics, press, finishing, shipping. So the next question was about the active user production queues. So does moving order items now allow you to also change the active user as you are moving it? So here you can see some examples of some of those active users. So if we clicked on this one, you'd see they only have 21 jobs they can see. So in answer to that question, so not currently, you just have to do it on edit or through bulk actions. And basically the process would allow you to add all the people that way who will be actually touching that job. So here's another active user here. So you can see these are the different jobs that this person can see. So this is a good example of that custom sort order I was talking about, where you can change the order of here. So if you want to change how you want your particular production queue, the order, what you're currently working on, it's a good way to move that around, and you can also do it in the workflow in production as well. Lots of great questions so far. Does anyone else have any other questions? Okay, I don't see any more questions, so thanks everybody for attending this webinar. We will be releasing the training module here and a recording of the webinar for you to take a look at. And if you're interested in signing up for the beta, you just email us at beta@documentmanager.ca and we can get you rolling in there. So thanks everyone for attending, and thanks for all the great questions. And don't forget to take a look at the video here and read through our training information. That'll get you nice and comfortable for the next version. So thanks and have a good day.